Okay, we're live.
All right, sign-in sheet is going around for everyone to sign in. The last time that we met, we provided a whole contract. And we spent the day going through what we had proposed in pretty significant detail, answered all the questions that the ATU had for us with regard to what we proposed. There was a lengthy caucus to consider it. So that's where we left it. We did not receive any responses to anything that we provided, but we did talk through everything. And that's where we're at.
Is that all where we at? So you gave us two things on the 16th of April to consider. One of them was a scratch-through version, and one of them, as your words are, was a contract. I think the verbiage was a clean version of it. However, we can't accept it the way it is, of course. And we had some dialogue with you. You answered the questions, and we asked you if they were just recapping. I asked you if that was your best and final. You told me that was not your best and final. There was room to make I don't know, changes to some of it. I would take, go ahead.
And we talked about some of those during the discussions during the last session. We did talk about some of the concerns the union had, and they were open to several articles being discussed.
We have very few TAs, where before this new administration came on, we had a bunch of TAs that we worked through. A lot of changes on your side throughout this process, from the transit side all the way to the administrative side. So it's not been any consistency, and the amount of times that we have met, in my opinion, have not been sufficient. We have responses to you. Some of them we need to finish typing up because as early as this morning, we were still kind of going back and forth on what position we need. So we'll give you a written copy of it after our first caucus. But if you want to, I think we should recap where we are and what I'm going to recap from my perspective where we are. You've given me what your perspective is, which is, and I must say that, you know, after going through it, very distasteful when we look at it and we look at the benefits of it in some of these articles. And consistently you have said, not you personally, but your team has said that we want to move the transit system as a department and move it more to look like the county. There's only one problem I've been saying from day one. Transit is not the normal county job. My members get up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. County workers don't start until the buildings open up, the majority of them. 7 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock. We don't have those kind of jobs. Even the ones that are in the field for the county don't start that early. They don't, I got it, Mike. They don't stay after 5 o'clock. The majority of them. Let me finish, Mike. Sure. They don't stop at 5 o'clock. They don't work weekends. They work holidays. All the things that county employees don't have to go through, transit workers go through for the county, every single day. Our schedules and lifestyles are not the same. The working conditions in most of the county facilities are like this one, very nice. Good work environments. Our work environments are not good. So when we look at some of your proposals about what affect transit specifically, not the things that are more general, look at it as very unreasonable considerations to ask us to move towards the county's way of doing things when my members' lifestyles are not that way. We worked through a good bit of this stuff when Mike Creekington was here. And we find ourselves now asking to go back to the table to meet with some of the transit folks to get some of this stuff hammered out again. Why? I don't know why we got to do it twice. Consistently, just keep your position and nobody's met with us. That's unreasonable as well. So we'll give you our perspective and our answer back. You can take it from there and do as you please. And we'll just give it to you in writing as well, but I'll go through it from my notes right now, tell you where we're at for all 50-something articles.
Okay. To the extent that transit is an operation of a department of the county that requires their own idiosyncratic language in a collective bargaining agreement, we've addressed that. So the contract we gave you is not a mirror contract of what we give to fire, or what we give to the EMTs, or what we give to the rank and file employees. In some places it is. But what we propose to put on the table is more disalike any other contract that we have than alike. So I know you've been telling us that for a couple of years now, and I think it's preventing us from getting to a contract by taking that attitude. We have modified our proposals to address transit as an operation that's different than some of our other operations. Earlier this week, we met with fire. Fireworks 24/7. Fireworks on weekends. Fire has some very challenging and difficult moments in their service to the county. EMTs too. We met successfully with EMTs. And they have the same circumstances. And where they are idiosyncratic, we tailor the language of the contract to their situation. We feel good about what we gave. And I'm more than glad to go through the list. But as soon as we complete this list, if you need a caucus to bring us something in writing, I want you to take that caucus immediately. Because last time we met, and a couple of times we've met in the past, this year, I feel like we've wasted our time because you're not prepared. You do not come in with documents to hand to us. You take long caucuses to discuss things that you should have discussed yesterday or last week or the week before that. So I'm glad to proceed. I'd like to hear your perspective on where we're at. I'd welcome you to go take a caucus and bring us something in mind. But if you're not ready today, then we need to reschedule this.
So the problem I have about rescheduling or doing anything is I want to hit my perspective of it and the record will show that I've made several attempts to advise you that we only do 3-4 hours every time we meet with you. You don't meet frequently. You decline a lot of dates to meet. You respond at the last minute, if not, cancel a lot. So there has been no consistency. You only want to meet one day. You don't want to meet consecutive days in order to try to hammer things out. Those things are challenging in trying to get a labor agreement. I think you understand that. When you're meeting for 3 and 4 hours, and it takes you time to consider things and look at things, research things. It takes time. Yeah, and as far as these labor negotiations, this one and the county workers, and I've said it everywhere I go, this is the only place that wants to negotiate like that. There's no consistency in trying to get a labor agreement. And we have the correspondence to show that every time we try to give dates and we try to follow up and we try to do things, there's a lack on your part. So while you say we're not prepared, we're not this, we're not that, what we're doing is normal negotiations. And as far as having things in writing and stuff like that, we don't have the facilities that you have. We don't have the luxuries as a small union to what you have. So, you know, if you want to hold out against us, that's fine. That's not going to offend me or whatever. We don't have the corporate abilities that you have to print out massive stuff and do all of these things. We don't have it. So it's not like we have the ability to come in here and do that. So if that's your position, I receive it. Not offended by it. But we are prepared, and I'm prepared to tell you what it is and email it to you so you can print it out massively.
No one's offending anybody. I'm not
But
offended.
I'm not finished.
And
I'm not finished. I
say
didn't
anything.
interrupt, Mike. I've always respected you. I didn't interrupt.
I thought you were finished.
No, I wasn't. So we will email it to you and let you print it out massively. For me, this is more than the norm. For this size property, for transit, this is more than the norm of the amount of people that usually come to the negotiations table. I can't tell you who to bring and who not to bring, but it's quite a few people here on your side. On our side, it's the normal side, 3-4 people. On your side, you bring 7, 8, 9 people, 10, 15 people at a time sometimes to labor negotiations for a property that has under 150 workers. If it takes that much of an overkill to have 2 attorneys, administrators, the clerk of the court's offices, the administrator, this HR person, and all of the transit folks, it's a lot. It's an overkill in my mind. I don't tell you how to run your team. I don't tell you who needs to be here, whatever. But we can't absorb that cost because we don't have that kind of facility and equipment and things of that nature. So as far as printing something, I'm going to send it over to you. I'm going to make sure it's right and finalized, and then we're going to let you print it and look it over and tell me what you're willing to do and not do. I think that's fair. I think that's what today's time is for. It's not a waste of time. And if you have top executives that feel like it's a waste of time, maybe they don't need to be here. Because this is negotiations and it's serious about what you should do for the men and women that work for them. So I'm okay. I'm going to take the time. I'm going to read it off. I'm going to send it to you via email, make sure it is proper and correct, and send it over to you. I think we burned a lot of trees since we've been here with all of this stuff. I mean, you give me so much paperwork sometimes. Hell, I feel like I'm reading a novel. And guess what? It's repetitive, right? So once again, you gave me 2 documents last time. I got to go word for word and ensure that they say the same thing, because in the past, they haven't always said the same thing. So we have found errors and corrections that we needed to. And this is serious, so I have to read all of this, side by side, word for word. You don't give them to me electronically where I can word search them and things like that. You give me a bunch of trees. There's 50-some pages here.
I can send them to you electronically.
56 pages here.
And I think we normally
57
do.
pages. Oh, don't do.
You made the comment about electronically.
I don't
Do you want me to
mind.
email it to
I
you
don't
now?
mind. I don't need you to cut me off while I'm talking. That's very disrespectful. I'm not disrespecting your team. When Mike talk, I listen. I don't need you guys to jump in on me. So.
Asking to accommodate, I'm sorry.
What we're interested on this side is to make progress. And
I'm interested in making
You just
progress
cut me
too.
off. No, you just cut me off.
Well, you took a very long pause, Mike. You said we want to make progress, and you just paused like who knows what.
Right. All right. Well, go through your list then, please.
So we want to make progress too, we always have, that's why we want to meet frequently. So, you know, unless you calling this is your best and final, we wish to move forward meeting more frequently, just for the record. Article 1, we consider that open. Sections 1 and 2, we believe we're on the same page and we agree to. Section 3 is open and it's collection of coke. We don't understand why we've been doing it this long and now all of a sudden the clerk of court does not want to collect our coke. So that's Article 1. Article 2, probation. Section 1 and 2, we're okay with. Section 3 is open. And we believe that through conversation, we may be able to get there with you. We don't believe that we're that far off on that language. Article 3, we'd like to leave you with the last proposal that we've given you on November 20th for that article in its entirety. Article 4 is open, and we would like to keep the union's proposal of November 2020. Article 5 is, we just rather keep the status quo current language on. And we've moved our position on some of these things to just say, well, you know, we'll just keep the current language. Article 6, the union wishes to keep the current language. Article 7 is open. We'd like to counter with the previous TA that we had with the county, and that was 600 hours per year and 500 for the life of the contract for negotiations. That was a TA that we've signed off on in the past. Article 8, we'd like to keep the current language. Article 9, we'd like to keep the current language. Article 10, we'd like to keep our proposal of June 5th, 2020. Article 11 is a TA of June 5, 2020. Article 12 is a TA from June 5, 2020. Article 13 is open. We'd like to keep the current language, or we would like to, if the current language is not good, we keep our proposal of June 5th. Article 14 is open. We'd like to keep the current language or the June proposal of June 5th. Whichever one of those is more in line with what you would begin to have closure to. Article 15, we'd like to keep the proposal that we had on March 7th, 2018. Article 16, we'd like to keep the TA from February 23rd, 2018. Article 17, we'd like to keep the proposal from April 16th, 2020. Article 18, we'd like to keep the proposal from, no, the TA, not the proposal, the TA from March 7th of 2018. Article 19, holidays, we'd like to add and modify our proposal to add Juneteenth and keep the TA from February 23rd, 2018. Article 20, we'd like to leave our proposal from April 16th, 2021. Article 21, we'd like to keep the proposal from March 20th, 2018. Article 22 was a TA on June 5th, 2020. Article 23 was a TA of June 5th, 2020. Article 24, the union would like to keep the proposal, the TA from March 6th, 2018. Article 25, the union wishes to keep the current language, status quo. Article 26, we would like to have the TA of March 6th, 2018. Article 27 was a TA of June 5th, 2020. Article 28, we'd like to have the TA of February 13th, 2018. Article 29 was a TA on June 5th, 2020. Article 30 was a TA on June 5th, 2020. Article 31, we'd like to have the TA of March 7th, 2018. Article 32, we'd like to have the TA of March 6th, 2018. Article 32, I think, is it 33, I'm sorry. The union wishes to keep the TA of May 9th, 2018. Article 34, the union wishes to keep the TA of March 7th, 2018. Article 35, we'd like to keep our proposal of October 9th, 2020. Article 36, we'd like to keep the TA of June 13th of 2018. Article 37, we'd like to keep the proposal from June 5th, 2020. Article 38, nope, I'm sorry, there is no 38. 39, we'd like to keep the TA of June 13th, 2018. Article 40 was a TA on June 5th, 2020. Article 41, we'd like to keep our November 20th, 2020 proposal. Article 42 was a TA on June 25th, 2021, or 2020, I'm sorry. Article 43 was a TA of June 5th, 2020. Article 44 was a TA of March 2nd, 2021. Article 45, we'd like to keep the TA from March 7th, 2018. Going down to Article 49, we'd like to keep the TA from November 20th, 2020. Article 50 was a TA from June 5th, 2020. Article 52 was a TA on June 5th, 2020. Article 54 was a TA March 2nd of 2020. 21, I'm sorry. Article 56, we'd like to keep our proposal of June 25th, 2020, and Article XX was a TA on March 2nd, 2021. And there's several of these articles that we agreed to eliminate. So our counter proposal will reflect those being gone. That's why I skipped over some of the numbers. But I went through them chronologically from the old contract, which was not reflected to me, so I had to have many side-by-side documents in order to give an accurate proposal of what we just gave you. So we will take time and just make sure the document is clean and send it over to you so you can print it over. Mike, I'm not gonna lie to you, I think it's an overkill of stating and restating and giving information that we've given already. So I'm not gonna make sure it has all of the language to it or whatever. I'm gonna refer to documents, and if we made or changed our position on any, on any documents that we've given you in the past, that will have the language for it, which
Okay.
should streamline going through it a lot easier.
Okay, and if we have any questions, we'll bring them up.
All right.
So
I just wanted to add that our previous proposal included the 15 articles that we have TA'd since 2020. So those were included in our previous contract proposal.
Okay.
So I'd like to just say something. This document right here shows cooperation by both sides. I want to applaud Mr. Kimbrough and Ms. Ellis spending 2 days to work with us on something that we thought was important, which is trying to find an apprenticeship program to help the transit system, because you're understaffed tremendously right now. And we believe it's a program that could expand over even to your department, sir, at some point, potentially. Because you want the best type of employees. But these 2 days that we did this, we sat in a room, in a conference room, and we hashed it out, and we went through this. And now we're about to send the employees a letter with hopefully a date to start this committee to create an apprenticeship program. I'm thinking it will work. That's the same thing we've been talking about over and over for many negotiations here about eliminating many articles in the contract that were operational, that were not economic. We asked for it many times, and Curtis referred to the fact that we should be meeting. Those kind of articles, sometimes you can't get it done in one day. You have to hear the other side. You have to talk. You have to have conversations. I got to hear your reasoning why you take a position, not just passing paperwork back and forth. Sometimes I have to understand your position. You have to hear my position and why I take a position. And then often, that kind of conversation, that kind of negotiations that I'm used to, finds you coming together in the middle somewhere, and you get it done. And Mike, I've done it with you many times over the years in the past, many times. With J.C. Reynolds, we sat in negotiations 3-4 days in a row. With Rod Powell as the HR director, we sat 3-4 days in a row getting a contract done for the operational unit in the past. Like Curtis says, these negotiations have been a struggle, getting one day at a time, every couple months, cancellations. You know, it just, but the last couple days, I had hope that we would start to move in a different direction. I had hope. And the only thing I noted, and thank you for sending Jamie to those meetings, because I think that was the first time I had a positive interaction with him. I didn't know him very well. I heard some things he said and I thought, wow, I think we can find some common ground here on many things. Sometimes it's communication. And I again applaud Ms. Ellis and Mr. Kimbrough for sitting in that room for 2 days straight, even though they often had to jump out because they had issues they had to deal with. But we waited, and they stayed late into the afternoon, right? Late into the afternoon. And that's how you get a contract done, in my opinion. You have to hear each other out. You have to understand. But I said it 2 days ago. I said, the problem was, and I said it directly to them, was that the people that are not in this room right now these last couple days are going to be in the room Friday. And I said, that's disappointing, because I would have loved, and I know you had your interim, you're new, you had things you had to deal with, there was a bus accident, all these other things you were dealing with, but I appreciated you having someone in there that could come back to you and tell you what the conversations. Sure. I believe the conversations came back to you that, wow, now that's labor management relations. That's how you work. The agreement you gave us excludes labor management discussions going further. But I will tell you, we did it the other day. And I have such positive reactions from the workforce. Seeing us in a room for 2 days, they came to me and they said, are we progressing? Are we moving forward? I just hope that we can take a different attitude towards these negotiations. Find a few days, 3-4 days in a row. Why don't we try 3 or 4 days in a row and see what we can get out of it? Or we're going to end up what you filed with Tallahassee. And I just think that that's the wrong direction, because no one wins on that side. No one wins. Your team doesn't win, our team doesn't win, and especially the employees that provide the services to the citizens of this community don't win. That's how I feel. I feel you get in a room and we work it out. It's like the operational unit. We're this close to a contract, but we haven't met since last March. We need to take care of those employees, the operational unit, just as much as ECAT. Let's get it done.
And so, Mike, with that being said, a lot of the things that we did originally was talk through it, and we had some rough starts. I think we did. We had some tough conversations amongst me and you at first, and I think that maybe the county commissioners wasn't happy with all of the things that you brought back. But I felt like we worked through and there was a compromise on both sides. That has not been the case after we came back from that vote being denied. It's been a lot more of, this is our position and we're not bending. We had a lot less conversation and dialogue amongst the parties. So I agree with Mike. You know, the way you get it done is when you can live with something that it's not gonna make or break you from both sides. And we, from day one, and we'll continue. I'm gonna be honest, I'll say it, it's not the locals' perspective. You file an impasse, doesn't change anything for me. Still got a collective bargaining agreement. It changes the game. It tells me that, you know, I may have to do things that if we're not having fruitful negotiations, that I have to start speaking out and doing other things. I don't think those things bring us closer together, me personally. So my motto and tone at the table has never been that. And it's not gonna change. But I'm gonna do what's in the best interest of my members. And, you know, I'm here to do a job. So naturally, you know, for me, it's a different feeling. My job is to move you in negotiations. And so I plan on doing that. I plan on being here to work through and talk through whatever you're open to, as long as it's reasonable. And I know that definition is broad. And I understand your position, what you said, that you believe that the offer you gave us is good for the county. I've done a little research. I haven't done a lot, but I've taken some surrounding counties and looked at their transit system operations, governmental operations. I wouldn't say, in my opinion, that this is close to that. So, you know, I still think there's room for you and your team to understand some of our position. And I think there's room to work through the day-to-day stuff on the property that me and you don't work there, that they should be discussing and bringing back where they can work on how some of that work is done. And I think that's the right thing to do. But if it's a stalemate on those type of issues, I can understand the benefit levels and things that me and you have to look at perspectives of both our clients in a sense. But the day-to-day stuff is not even getting worked out. So we hope we can further those conversations as well. And we're open to putting back on the table all the articles that we wish to meet with Tanya and her team on. We still want that open and have those dialogues and discussions so we can work through them. And it's a win-win for the workers, not a back and forth at this kind of negotiations table. So, do y'all have a breakout room for us to break out in?
Yeah.
The same one?
The same one.
Okay, all right. So thank you, and just give us a little bit. I'm talking about no long, drawn-out 3-4 hours, Mike.
That would be appreciated.
We'll try to cut it to 30 minutes or
That would
so,
be great.
close to
30
around
minutes
that.
to an hour max. That's okay.
Because I'm typing.
But thank
I'm
you.
a pecker, not a typist.
Good morning, sir.
Hey man, how you doing?
All right.
Hey, how are you?
I'm all right, old man.
Friend, old man.
Let me
Ms. Ellis, your letter looks good. You just got to take a date.
Okay,
And I'm ready to sign.
Okay.
I'm ready to sign.
look at your calendar and I'll look at mine.
I will.
Okay.
I was writing and was not multitasking well.
Yeah.
Give me your name again. Dewar. Nice to meet you.
I had my shot, but we had
I have to.
because I was tired.
Okay.
I was really tired.
Well, if you're on this side of the table, we've got to make some movement here together, so for the good of everyone, and I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, I'm always gonna be on this side today.
That's
I'm
okay.
gonna Vietnam veteran and everything,
Do you need to join them? I just wanted to
No,
put your
no.
name. Okay.
This is Blake Vanamore, and this is negotiations between the ATU unit at ECAT and the Escambia County Board of County Commissioners on June 25th, 2021. It is approximately 11:24 Central Standard Time. After a caucus, the parties have agreed that having exchanged proposals that require study and research, that we're going to conclude our negotiations for today, and that we are going to reconvene with back-to-back negotiation sessions